Why did the world fall in love with Andy? Well, how could they not? I mean, his good looks for a start. He was the most handsome guy. And people used to ask all the time how we kept him so white, and so clean and so perfect. And we didn't. He did all of that. He always looked like that, no matter what the season. So why did they fall in love with him? Well, his charisma. This slide, I mean, there's a lot of pictures on there, and there's a lot of pictures that I omitted. It was a tough one to choose which ones I was going to use, because we've got dozens and dozens and dozens of pictures of something so handsome and beautiful, looking so ridiculous. And he would, he was the goofy faces were his thing. He was the king of Zen. This is Andy chilling in his enclosure. He's relaxed. He could chill like a champ, no doubt about it. Oftentimes we'd get radio calls from the front desk as some guest had gone over to his enclosure and reported that he wasn't okay. And we're like, he's probably just chilling. He wouldn't sleep like that. He'd lay down like that. And, it did look like, what is going on? But, that was just how he was. The king of mischief, I said he wasn't always a good boy. Well, he was always a good boy. He was the goodest boy. But that doesn't mean he didn't get up to trouble. It never changed. He had a huge love of horticulture, trees, tulips, dirt, no matter what. After he passed, one of our former horticulturists sent me a message, and she said he would always be an honorary master gardener, and he would have loved that designation. The times we'd worry about these things, and that top picture there where he's rolling the sod up, that's the Kia lawn over there. And when the sod first got put down, and Matthew, our director of horticulture, said to me specifically, don't let Andy roll up the sod. And you can see what happened there. He'd pull up landscape fabric. I remember one time we're out and he's ripping up the landscape fabric, and Erin and Arnold are running behind him trying to flatten it back down, like, Matthew's going to kill us. And of course he didn't, because nobody really minded whatever Andy got up to. It was a joy to see him. So Andy, here in Salt Lake City, I don't actually even think, if I'm being honest, and why wouldn't I be, that in Salt Lake City he was appreciated as much as he is appreciated around the world. I think that's often the case where you live or where you work. You're maybe slightly taken for granted because you're there or you've always been there. But people around the world and in other zoos and other countries, other states, certainly appreciated the gem that he was and the unique creature that he was. His Facebook page we started in 2012, and he amassed more than 20,000 followers. And as I told you, it was just a pure place of positivity. Meeting Andy became a bucket list item for so many people. Media attention, he always had reporters coming out to walk with him and just marvel at how incredible he was. And even vulture conservation organizations around the world. So this guy over here is Munir Varane, who is one of the foremost vulture conservationists in the world, used to work with the Peregrine Fund. He works with vultures in Africa. You can see his TED Talk on YouTube if you want more vultures. He's an amazing guy. And he came to the Aviary and just marveled at walking with Andy. And you can see the love that he got. The AZA conference, which is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, hosted here in Salt Lake City in 2015, and all the directors came to the apiary for a night at the apiary. So this is zoo directors from all over the country, and went for a walk with Andy around his home. And there was grown men, zoo directors. These are people that are around animals all the time, in tears, walking with him. So when I tell you he's special, it's not my personal bias. He was special. So his birthday parties were probably my favorite thing that we would do. Hundreds of people turning out to wish him many more and singing happy birthday to him. I would cry every year. It blows my mind, you know, that hundreds of people singing happy birthday for a vulture. It's like, come on, you know, what is happening? This is so surreal. People loved him, and if you had good taste, you loved him, that's for sure. So those are just some of his birthday parties over the years, but don't take my word for it. So first video clip coming up, you can see people singing happy birthday to Andy.
Birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andy. Happy birthday to you. He's like, give me it now. Give me it now. There's something in there. I love it. It's like just stops this video randomly. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Andy. Happy birthday to
Nothing not came from his girlfriend. Late Send you that. So Andy was certainly a bird for all seasons. He looked good in any color. Just another shameless way to include more beautiful photos of him. There's a meme, I think you showed it, Evan. If you want to know what's important to someone, see what they take photos of. If you go on my laptop computer, I have more than 10,000 photos of Andy, and I'm not a bit embarrassed. And that's 3 to 4 every day for the years of our friendship, if you break it down. So yes, he is what mattered to me, that's for sure. He loved flowers. And if you wondered where rainbows come from, now you know. There might not be a pot of gold at the end of them, but they spring forth from Condor's wings. He, regardless of the season, you know, Andy embraced life with a seeming joy that was contagious, whether he was tiptoeing through the tulips, playing in the fall leaves, frolicking in the snow, which I think was definitely his best season. He looked awesome in the snow. Inspiring all those around him to a greater appreciation of condors, of vultures in general, and of the beauty in the natural world. He was fun to be around. He was just so much fun. Over the years, thousands of guests to Tracy Aviary. I know, like, why wouldn't you have 10,000 photos of this? 10,000 doesn't seem like nearly enough. Guests to the aviary had the pleasure of meeting this gentle giant in person and being awestruck by him. He had a multi-generational impact. I've met countless people at the aviary that let me know that they came to see they saw a condor at the aviary when they were a child, and it was cool to see another one now. And I imagine their face when I'd let them know, this is the condor that you saw when you were a child at the aviary, which would spring forth stories of how they brought their kids to see him, and now we're here with their grandkids. That's humbling, to say the least, that this bird had been touching people all that while. Gas noted how much he changed and lit up even in his habitat since we started bringing him out, and how animated he was, and seemed to love seeing people. I think he did, like I really think he did. And little kids wanted to hug him, which always blew my mind. Kids smaller than him would run up to him with their arms outstretched, and sometimes we'd have to dive in between them because, as gentle as he was, there's a limit to the risks you're going to take. But they weren't afraid of him at all. They would want to hug him. And older kids running with him on that lawn over there, backwards and forwards, and yelling, "Do it again," and "Do it again." And it was something to see.